These soldiers were the newest members of his army. Jinwoo felt complicated as he looked at them. The day before he had done something he said he would never do. He had made soldiers out of regular people. These people had been hurt by the monarchs. These soldiers were made up of ordinary people who had died unfairly, and the brave people who had tried to save them. Hundreds of them stood before their new leader. Jinwoo had promised himself he wouldn't turn anyone innocent into a soldier, so he wanted to ask for their help. Please let me borrow your strength until this war is finished. To protect your family's friends and country. He would send them back to rest once everything was over. Even though the dead were loyal to Jinwoo because of his powerful ability, they still remembered who they were. Jinwoo's honesty and strong will reached them. Under their helmets, their eyes showed how much they hated the magical creatures that had caused them to become soldiers. They knew this was their chance to get even with those who had hurt them. The Shadow Monarch was helping them do it. They would fight with their leader. They would protect their families and their country from the magical creatures. They felt strong and ready. As the Shadow Monarch became more powerful, his shadow soldiers also became stronger. These shadow soldiers were different from the ones created when Jinwoo used the Shadow Monarch's power. These soldiers were much stronger and more dangerous. Jinwoo asked for help again. Please lend me your strength. The shadow soldiers quickly raised their hands to the sky, and let out a very loud and frightening yell that echoed everywhere. Rasaba. The yell grew louder as more soldiers joined in. Rasaba. The angry roar shook the ground. The army of undead soldiers was fully prepared. Jinwoo looked at his soldiers with determination. He was ready to do anything to get revenge on the monarchs for their actions. The soldiers shouted for a long time. It was the day before the large dungeon was expected to open from the huge gate. 2 days had passed since the system disappeared. Jinwoo was starting to adjust to life without the daily tasks. Without the system telling him what to do, he found some things were easier, and some were harder. One problem was that he could no longer buy things from the system's shop. Jinwoo pulled out a bottle of healing potion, and looked at it carefully. He wished he could somehow make more appear. The items in the shop used to be created by a powerful being called the Shadow Monarch, who could control magical energy. Jinwoo thought he should be able to make things whenever he wanted. He closed his eyes and imagined the healing potion. As he did, he could feel the magic energy around him. Concentrate, but the magic energy wouldn't come together. It spread out instead. He didn't succeed. Jinwoo opened his eyes and sighed. Learning to make things on his own would be hard. I think I need to practice more. Just then his cell phone buzzed. Hunter Sung. It's Jinshul Wu. Yes, President Wu. Jinwoo sat on the edge of his bed, and answered the phone. President Wu's voice sounded a little rough. He had probably been working non-stop because of several problems. Hunter Sung, if you have time, could you come to the association today? They thought the dangerous monster attack was about to happen, and the association needed advice from Jinwoo, since he would be very important in the fight, since he didn't have anything else to do. Jinwoo said yes. I'll see you at the meeting. Click. Jinwoo was preparing to go when Igris spoke up. Master. Yes? Jinwoo still felt a little strange hearing Igris's very deep voice and respectful way of talking. I would like to talk to you about something. The next day, every television station around the world stopped their normal shows to report what was happening in Seoul. Some television stations showed live pictures from the main area and reported the news like usual. Other stations asked experts to talk about what was happening. One of these was the Hunter Channel, a well-known American television network. As the show began, the pictures showed a lot of hunters in the area. One expert on the show became very emotional and asked, "Can anyone remember a time when so many hunters from different countries were together in one place?" The person hosting the show chuckled. I'm not sure, but I think it hasn't been that long, because groups from different countries sometimes team up. The expert shook his head. It has been 8 years. 8 years. It's almost 9 years now. 8 years. Everyone watching the show remembered a huge magical creature that caused a lot of trouble for people a long time ago. 8 years? Are you talking about the attack by Kamish? Yes, that's right. It's been 8 years since the Kamish attack, and this is the first time so many hunters from different countries have worked together like this. Almost all of the many hunters who came to help the United States died trying. Only 5 survived. The 5 people who lived through the terrible event became famous hunters known throughout the world. The countries that had lost their best hunters were very sad, and it was a difficult time for them. After that, countries became more careful about getting involved in the problems of other countries. This was understandable because everyone remembered what had happened. No country wanted hunters to risk their lives for someone else's country. Groups of hunters from different countries would sometimes work together to help their own groups, but it was very unusual for hunters to come together to help a single country. So, Professor, are you saying that a hunter from South Korea brought everyone together again after the disaster that separated them? That's right. The professor paused to continue his long explanation. It all started when Hunter Sung stopped a dangerous event in Japan. Before that, Japan had sent help to Korea for a problem on Jeju Island, but it didn't go well. If that had been the end of the story, most people would have thought it was a mistake to get involved in another country's problems. Everything changed when Jinwoo began fighting the giant monsters attacking Japan. South Korea and Japan haven't always been friendly with each other. Also, Japan had recently tried to take advantage of Korea, but a hunter from Korea still came to help Japan anyway. People in Japan were very grateful and moved by this act. When Jinwoo saved Japan, it broke an unwritten rule about countries helping each other with problems. This gave other hunters the courage to do the same. It also happened soon after Thomas Andra was defeated. Now everyone wondered who could stop these monsters. Hunter Jinwoo Sung showed everyone the answer. The bigger question now was even harder to figure out. If Hunter Sung was defeated, everything would be lost. He was the only one who could protect them. Other countries understood that when Hunter Jinwoo disappeared, the huge gate in the sky wouldn't just be Korea's worry anymore. It would become a problem for everyone. After South Korea, the strange events would likely spread to North Korea, then China or Russia, and eventually everywhere else. This huge gate had become a problem for the whole world, and one hunter from Asia was the first to realize what was happening. Just as the expert was about to explain how to make sure everyone understood this, the host suddenly stood up. A person working on the show had quickly gotten his attention. All the experts looked at a television screen. The video screen showed a huge gate slowly opening like a giant mouth. Wow! Everyone watching was amazed at what they saw. The air even seemed to shake as many hunters gathered around the gate, excited and nervous about what would happen next. They were all waiting for something big to come through. The moment everyone had been waiting for had arrived. The hunters who were good at fighting up close got ready. The hunters who were good at shooting from far away prepared to attack first. They had arrows and spells filled with magic, all aimed at the sky. You could feel how nervous everyone was. The hunters watched either the sky or the back of Jinwoo. The Korean hunter stood in front, looking up at the gate. The opening of the gate was getting closer every minute. He knew something was about to happen. Boom, boom, boom. A dark power, now acting as his heart where his real heart used to be, beat strongly in his chest. The other hunters felt scared, but Jinwoo's heart beat fast for a different reason altogether. He tried to stay calm as he waited for something important to happen. Haein stood beside him and looked at his face. I've never seen you this worried before, have you not? Jinwoo smiled at her. She smiled kindly back, then took out her sword and looked at the gate. She felt a big fight was about to happen soon, but Haein was wrong. Jinwoo put his hand over his heart and closed his eyes. His heart was beating fast, not because he was scared, but because he was excited. They're coming. The gate is opening. Finally, the gate began to open. The dark space between the gate and our world vanished, and strange creatures rushed out. There were so many of them that they blocked out the sky. The hunters were shocked by the huge group, which had more than 100,000 creatures. How could so many come out at once? There are too many. People cried out in fear and worry. The creatures floated down slowly, as if something was changing, how gravity worked. Attack, attack, everyone, attack. The hunters tried to defeat as many creatures as possible before they could fight back, so they started attacking right away. Magic seemed to sparkle on fingers. People pulled back on their bowstrings, aiming arrows toward the sky. Soldiers lifted their shields to protect their faces, ready for battle. But before anyone could act, Jinwoo shouted stop. The power in his voice and magic made everyone understand him, even if they didn't speak his language. It made everyone stop suddenly. Why? Why did Hunter Sung tell us to stop? Many hunters, tens of thousands of them, looked at Jinwoo as he said it again. Everyone stop. Jinshul wiped his forehead with his hand. As he watched from far away, if they didn't attack right now, the enemy would land safely. If that happened, the hunters at the front could block the hunters behind them. They were already facing many more magical creatures than they had people. They didn't need to worry about accidentally hitting their teammates too. One of Jinchul's helpers cautiously walked up to him. President Wu, it was time to decide what to do. It made sense for Jinchul to tell everyone to attack, but he decided to trust Jin Wu. Do not attack. When even their leader told them to stop, the hunters just stood there confused. What are they thinking? Do they really want to fight those magical creatures directly without trying to attack from far away first? So many creatures appeared all at once. Confusion and fear spread across the battlefield as they landed. The hunters were shocked by the huge number of black creatures. One of the beasts moved forward away from the group. Jin Wu started walking toward it. What was happening? The hunters quietly watched Jin Wu. They met face to face. Then the monster knelt down before Jin Wu. The soldiers behind it did the same. Boom! It was amazing to see hundreds of thousands of soldiers bowing to Jin Wu. After a moment of quiet, one of the magical creatures lifted its head. Grand Marshal Bellion and the Shadow Army report for duty, sir. The 50,000 hunters from all over the world who had come to stop the huge gate were amazed to see the black magical creatures bowing before Jin Wu. Wow, all the creatures kneeling were wearing black armor or covered in black smoke. They each had a lot of magical ability, but that wasn't what surprised the hunters the most.
Here are those?
Back there, did you see what I saw? I definitely did. The hunters looked pale as they pointed to 3 dragons at the back of the monster army. The dragons lowered their heads, as if they were well-behaved animals, listening to their owner. The hunters were amazed at what they saw. Kemish was the only dragon ever to come through a special doorway to our world, and it had defeated many powerful hunters, and almost set the whole planet on fire. It was called the Undying Flame for a good reason. Facing 3 of those creatures made the hunters feel completely exhausted. What would have happened if the hunters had fought those magical beasts? The hunters felt a shiver of fear as they thought about what almost happened. This made them wonder even more about who Jin Wu really was, since he stood calmly in front of the magical creatures, as if it were normal. Jin Wu looked at Bellion and the soldiers who were kneeling before him. So this is what the real Shadow Army is like. Igris was correct. He told Jin Wu about this a few days ago. Sir, the Shadow Army is ready. Jin Wu needed time to think about this surprising news. Then he had a problem. Could he explain to others the amazing story of the fight between the monarchs and the rulers, and also tell the truth about the gates? He knew it would be impossible to convince so many people who had come from all over the world to stop guarding the gate. They were determined to prevent a terrible disaster, and if Igris was wrong, which was very unlikely, what would happen then? So Jin Wu decided to wait for the gate to open and see for himself what was happening. And now they were here. Jin Wu gulped and looked at the soldiers. Even though he didn't make them, he felt connected to each one. It was like a complicated web. Through this connection, he could feel how happy they were to be with him again. This is what the last Shadow Monarch left for me. The soldiers quietly promised to be loyal to their new master. Jin Wu felt a lot of the same emotions as everyone else. He looked from the dragons at the back of the army to Grand Marshal Bellion at the front. Bellion looked strong and led well, which was perfect for his important job. Bellion had scars on his back where wings had been ripped away. He had 4 wings, most regular soldiers only had 2 wings, and the most powerful leaders, called rulers, had 6. If that meant anything, he understood how brave a soldier Bellion was. He really focused and noticed the Grand Marshal had a lot of hidden power, which he kept secret to be respectful of Jin Wu. He realized Bellion could lead an army with dragons because he was so strong. It was the Shadow Army. The king really wanted to fight and was happy to be with his soldiers. Boom, 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 but that wasn't everyone who would fight for him. Besides the soldiers who had fought for the old leader Ashbourne, Jin Wu also had his own soldiers. Come forward, he said. His special shadow soldiers quietly appeared behind him when he called for them. There were almost 2,000 of them. Baru, Igris, Greed, Number 6, Fang, Iron, Jima, Tank, and all the others stood behind Jin Wu. They all knelt and lowered their heads. Each shadow soldier quietly promised to be loyal to him. Jin Wu felt pleased. His shadow army, once broken into pieces, was now whole. He finally had enough power to fight the armies of the monarchs. Things were going well. Almost perfectly, actually. Jinwoo glanced behind him. He saw tens of thousands of hunters, and hundreds of reporters, all looking at him. They had come to watch what everyone knew would be a very important battle. Everyone looked confused, not understanding what was happening. Okay, thought Jinwoo, and he smiled a little nervously, as he looked at their faces. How could he explain this? Everything had changed. People all over the world had seen on television how magical creatures came rushing out of a huge gate. And then surprisingly, they all knelt down to show respect for Jinwoo. People were very surprised and talked about it a lot online. They wondered what those magical creatures were and what was happening. Some people thought Hunter Sung might be controlling them. Others said they heard over 100,000 magical creatures had come through the gate. It seemed unbelievable. How could small helpers come out of the gate? Please stop making silly comments. Then you can explain what is happening. They look just like the helpers from Hunter Sung's group. But how are helpers coming out of the gate? Most people didn't believe it, but others had different ideas. Still, it's good they aren't coming after us. Yes, definitely. If they were, we would all be in trouble now. I heard in an interview that 3 of the magical creatures were dragons. 3 dragons. That's really surprising. It's hard to believe. It made me think of Kamish, who probably would have gone back inside if he'd seen them. Oh wait, Kamish has been gone for almost 9 years. Sorry for spoiling the surprise. I'm starting to feel confused. I really wish Hunter Sung would tell us what's happening. TV channels kept showing the video over and over, trying to figure out what was going on, but no one could explain why small creatures, and even dragons, came out of the gate instead of the normal magical creatures. I'm not sure how they could only shake their heads, not knowing what to think. Many experts were very surprised to see over 100,000 creatures kneeling before Jinwoo. No matter how they looked at it, these creatures were showing respect to their leader. Some people started calling Jinwoo Demon Lord, because he seemed so powerful, and was surrounded by dark soldiers. Other experts thought this event was amazing. This has been shocking, but it's a good thing for us. Good thing, you say? Look at how many magical creatures or minions there are. The expert pointed to the many bowed heads of the Dark Army on a screen. The host felt nervous trying to guess how many creatures there were. It was impossible to count them all. Even without the 3 dragons, there were way too many. If the hunters had to battle these creatures, it wouldn't be a simple fight to win or lose. It would be a very serious struggle. It would be a countdown to the total destruction of people as they moved across the world. The television host nodded, paying close attention. It was lucky that these creatures followed Hunter Sung and he could tell them what to do. But that was just one person's idea about what was happening. That expert said only Hunter Jinwoo Sung knew for sure what was really going on. Just then the screen showed the most surprising part of the video. Right here, watch this. In the video, after looking at the other hunters, Jinwoo went into his own shadow and vanished. The host shook his head and fixed his glasses as he talked. Hunter Sung seems to be causing a lot of trouble, but no one knows where he is right now. The Hunter Association of Korea received many calls asking for information, but they said they didn't know where Jinwoo was. Everyone was talking about Jinwoo, and the association's answer just made people talk even more. The television host turned to the camera with excitement. We can only hope he returns soon and answers our questions. Jinwoo went back to the empty forest in Japan, away from everyone looking at him. This large area of land that seemed to go on forever was the best place to practice controlling his shadow army. Jinwoo stood away from the 13,000 soldiers he had split into 2 groups. Go. With just his thoughts, Jinwoo told the 2 groups to charge at each other. Thud, 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 thud. The sound of the soldiers running shook the ground as the groups quickly came together and fought. Jinwoo moved the soldiers who were falling behind, telling them to go around and surround their opponents. He sent soldiers to where they were needed, bringing them from one place to another quickly and efficiently. The army moved like a river flowing smoothly. He used everything he had learned from fighting to guide this large army of over 100,000 soldiers with skill. Halt, he said quietly. The shadow soldiers stopped right away. Jinwoo turned to the person beside him, who was also watching the practice battle. What do you think? Grand Marshal Bellion asked, clearly impressed. I never imagined soldiers could be moved like that. It was really amazing, my lord. Bellion had been in many battles with the last Shadow Monarch, but he had never seen an army led in such a way. He was very impressed by Jinwoo's way of calling forth soldiers. He stood up straight, Proud because he was used to this kind of fighting since he had been with Jinwoo for a while. Jinwoo smiled at the night. Then his phone buzzed. Boss, it's me, Jinyo. Oh, hello. Jinyo said the Ajin Guild had received so many calls after Jinwoo disappeared, just like the association, that they couldn't use the office phones. Sorry about that. I just need a little time to think. You don't need to say sorry, sir. Isn't the Ajin Guild supposed to help you focus on important tasks without having to worry about things like this? Jinyo chuckled, and Jinwoo smiled back. Oh yes, did you call your family yet? I told them I would come home after I had a chance to relax and think. That will probably make them feel much better. Okay sir, Jinwoo said, letting out a big sigh as he put his phone away. He knew he couldn't put things off forever, but if he talked about the shadow soldiers in the gate, he would also have to explain about rulers and monarchs.